Ira, how's it going?
Hey Max, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good, good. You recovered from the Nick loss last night.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did. They should have put him away. I think we're just delaying this win as much as possible. I hope that they finish him off in New York tomorrow. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't really follow basketball anymore, but I happened to put it on for a while, and yeah, I think you could just see, man, they better finish them off tomorrow night, otherwise anything could happen.
yeah, it's that the Celtics will probably come back if they win tomorrow night. It's written in stone if that happens.
Oh yeah, no, if they go back to Boston, I don't think the Knicks have a prayer.
No, I don't think it'll happen. And it's been a while. Knicks haven't won since '73. It's kind of almost right up there with the Jets if you think about it. It's pretty close.
Yeah, yeah, they must have signed an agreement, with the sports guards, And, it's been a long time.
Yeah, and the Mets are right in there too, even though they've been to a World Series recently, and they look like they're on the trajectory up here. So I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? It's crazy, but
Yeah,
at least the Mets are playing well this year.
yeah. At least they're playing well, and that they have Soto, and we'll see what happens from there. But I know we wanted to get into the schedule. Before we really break into the schedule, I did want to get your reaction to Thomas Morstead being released from the Jets.
Um, I, I mean, I can't go crazy over a 39-year-old punter, but I was disappointed because he was a team leader.
Hmm.
He was, even though his numbers dropped a bit, he was still one of the better punters in the league. And at the end of the day, it kind of solidifies how I feel, even though they won't admit it. They're in a complete rebuild. I don't care what they say.
Hmm. I agree. Yeah, it doesn't look good. I mean, the schedule, we can just get right into it now. And you've described it to me already as brutal, but how many wins do you think this team is going to get this year? How many are you projecting?
Well, I think it really depends on what goes on by the bye week. I mean, you look at those, what was it, 2, 4, looking at the schedule, 2, 4, 6. They got 8 games. I mean, once again, it never plays out this way. But on paper, it looks like out of those first 8, Carolina is probably the most winnable game out of them all. I mean, in Cincinnati's no bargain. Pitt, if it's not going to be Rodgers, I'm hearing it's going to be Kirk Cousins. So they're going to have a legitimate team to open up with. And then every one of the other teams, they're basically playoff teams, and Miami barely missed it, and Dallas, I think they're going to rebound good.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. And you got to love this, how they made the schedule and they're predicting that Rodgers will probably sign with the Steelers just to spite us in the opening game. That was insane to really look at when you see this top of the schedule.
Well, I think we spoke about it in one of our previous shows. I always felt that, the Rodgers, Pittsburgh, at Jets, week 1, for sure. I think if Rodgers had signed, that would have been a night game. But I think since it's, who knows what's really going on over there. I guess they can't go bad. If it's Rodgers, they got a good 1 o'clock game, and if it's not, they got the Justin Fields revenge game against Mike Tomlin.
That's right. And now, because it's going to be all a storyline game for that one, but are you going to be traveling to London for the Broncos game this year?
No, 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 no. It's a big trip. My wife and I made it when we were in there in 15 against the Dolphins. And, if you've been to London once, it's fine. It's just too expensive and too far of a trip. So I'm passing on that. And I'm, a little disappointed that I knew that there would be back-to-back Florida games. And I'm disappointed it's in September.
Yeah.
Because, if it was in, late October, November, December, I'd stay down there for the week. But, September is brutally hot down there.
It is.
And my wife can't go, and I'm not going to spend 10 days down there by myself. So I'm just going to hit the Dolphin game, and then after that, Yeah, I'd like to get to Cincy. We'll see, but then anything after that, the Baltimore game. Then first of all, that's gonna probably not gonna be pretty. And number two, it's the Sunday after Thanksgiving. You know what the traffic's gonna be like?
Oh, it's gonna be
So,
crazy.
right. So yeah, I'm probably gonna pass on that. So maybe I'll get out to Jacksonville. I don't like New Orleans, and there's no point in going to the Buffalo game at the end of the year.
No, yeah, and it's like that year with Fitzpatrick, and you still have the flashbacks. So when Fitzpatrick threw that
Oh,
interception, yeah, and to end that season, I never like finishing against the Bills.
nope. And you know what's amazing? I thought about it. You know, I without looking it up, I say the last 10 seasons, I'm willing to bet 6 to 8 of one of the two last games of the year were played in Buffalo.
Hmm. That's right. Yeah, even one of the Zach Wilson years there, I remember he had an abysmal performance there in Buffalo. I think it was after the Tampa Bay game. Was it that they finished against Buffalo that year? I remember one of
Yeah,
those Zach Wilson years.
I think so. I think it was after the Jacksonville game. I think. But
Jacksonville.
and then the other one was last year with Rodgers.
Yeah.
Didn't they play like week 16 or 17 or
Yeah,
something
one of the
like
last
that?
few weeks. Yeah.
You know, that was a disaster. You know, that's the one that Tyrod Taylor came in and had the 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and speaking of Tyrod Taylor, did you see the reports that came out saying that he was preparing to be a starter? Then he kind of backed it up by saying,
No,
"Well, yeah,
no.
yeah." There was something that came out like a couple weeks ago. I think he said he was like, "Oh, I'm training to be a starter," and then he had to clarify it as well. Since I'm in this league, I've always prepared to be the starter. So it was kind of like he's been fighting to get the starting job.
It's that's interesting. I didn't hear that one. But getting back to the initial question, how many wins? So, like I just said, leading up to the bye, you have 8 games. I, I, I have a hard time believing they're going 1-7. It wouldn't shock me. I think if they could get, I know this is really depressing. If they could get out of there 2-6, or if by any chance they get to 3-5, I think that would be tremendous. I wouldn't count on it. But after that, in the next 9 weeks, there's a lot more winnable games there.
Mm-hmm.
You could take once again. You never know how it's going to play out. But I think Baltimore. Everybody's saying Atlanta, but I think Atlanta is going to be really good. And I think New England's going to be tough. And then you got Buffalo. So, right, 4 out of the last 9, take off the board. So, if you get 2 and you get maybe 4 to 5 at the end, somewhere between 5 and 7. I'm going to stay with 6 and staying with 6 wins. And, I'd say 1 comes before the bye and maybe 5 after the bye.
Mm-hmm.
But what this reminds me of, I think it was it might have been Gase's last year or first year. I don't remember. They started off hard. I think it was the year that Donald had mono.
Mm-hmm.
So was that Gase's first year?
I feel like that was his first year, because was that when he came back? They went on a winning streak and they played better the second half of the season. Yeah,
right. That's the game. They opened up with Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Both got hurt. In the following week, Donald was declared with mono, and then he was out. And so God knows what their record was, but then they won like 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 7, and they made a run. And I think the same thing could possibly happen here. So once again, I'm going to stay with my 6 wins, and but I'd be surprised if it's any more than that.
I would be too. Yeah, I was looking at the schedule. It doesn't look good. There's too many playoff teams in there, and then it's always a competition within the division teams. And I mean, Cleveland's interesting. I feel as though that they could possibly win that, but I don't know, because I remember we talked about Shador Sanders the last show. You weren't a big fan of him, but apparently he's been lighting it up in the practices over there. Yeah, he's been like the biggest shining star there for Cleveland right now. Everyone's saying he looks the best out of everyone they drafted.
Well, they're going to probably get Sanders, by then for sure, because Flacco's not, even if Flacco gets the job, he's not going to have it in November. And those other games, I think Jacksonville's probably going to be better. I don't really have a feel about the Saints. And I think New England's going to surprise a lot of people. I like Drake May. I like him. I think he has a lot of potential.
Mm.
So, with a guy like Vrabel, the Patriot game is no gimme. So who knows? Well, Buffalo, once again, the last game of the year, possibility of playing for a home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So, yeah, it's amazing how the NFL, they never do right by the Jets. The only good thing as a fan, they're all 1:00 games except for the Miami and New England games.
Yeah, no night games anymore for them now that especially Rodgers is gone. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And even the night game that they got with the Dolphins at the beginning of the year, that's a doubleheader that night. So the prime game is at 8:15. I think it's Denver and somebody. But they put the Jets on is, get them out of the way for the first hour before the real game comes on at 8:00. You know what I mean?
I will say this too with regards to the Saints. Maybe the Jets obviously did make the right decision with Rodgers because Derek Carr, he's out. He retired.
Unbelievable, man. It's just absolute. Now, I think he had a torn rotator cuff. I think his shoulder was really messed up. I think he opted. I know he opted. Well, everybody knows he opted not to have the surgery. He tried to rehab it. It didn't work. And I guess he hung it up.
Yeah. Could you imagine if that happened with he signed there, we passed on Rodgers, and it just would have ended up the same way regardless?
Boy, I would have been eating a lot of crow on that one, I'll tell you that.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's crazy.
It really, really is unbelievable. And, I'll tell you one thing about this, the scheduling is that it's unbelievable. It's like all bets are off now when it comes to holidays. Mm-hmm. And I mean, 3 games on Christmas. You got the Black Friday game, Thanksgiving. There's 3 games. It's like it's nonstop.
It's too much, and I really don't like it being on Christmas because I feel as though Christmas is a basketball day. It's always been that way for years now, and you're competing with the NFL. You don't know what to watch, and I think that the NFL has to go back to its old ways with the scheduling for holidays. It's on constantly.
Yep, it really is. And that's what, it's a funny thing. As much as I love the Jets and, I like football, the NFL, to be very honest with you, it's turned me off the last couple of years. And I'm not, well, once again, it's probably because the Jets have been so bad and the games don't mean anything. So I don't care who wins or loses. But between the gambling, between the owners being in bed with all these gambling places, between the salaries for the players, the market, just everything in general, ticket prices, it's like I pay one, and once again, nobody's twisting my arm, so it's my decision. But I'm paying $155 to sit upstairs. I have decent seats, right? Mm-hmm. And I heard a commercial on ESPN today for Vivid tickets. And so I said, let me just pop it on. And I can't get my exact seats, but I could get something comparable for less money than I paid as a season ticket holder. I mean, quite a bit, at least $30, $40 a ticket. Not for every game, but for most. And the Jets haven't even lost a game yet.
That's insane. Yeah, these ticket prices, they're through the roof, and they haven't won. The Jets haven't won in so long, and they haven't even been, I mean, forget about winning, they haven't even been competitive in so long. That's what's so crazy about it.
Well, if you really think about it, the best, or I guess the most competitive year we had was, we mentioned the Jacksonville game, was that game with Zach Wilson and Flacco, Zach Wilson getting the bench, getting put back in. They're playing Jacksonville in the rain. I believe it was a Monday night game, and they were in the mix for a playoff spot.
Mm-hmm. And they blew it.
And they blew it. That's when Quinn Williams recovered a fumble right on, inside the 20 on the opening possession. And then the Jets get it, like on a 15-yard line, they can't punch it in. They settle for a field goal. It's like right there and then. As soon as you kick the field goal, they're not going to win that game.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting too when we look at the recent moves because Pickens is on the Cowboys now. I wonder if Lazard gets shipped to the Steelers, especially if Rodgers goes there.
Oh, I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I think that, and I did we talk about Gabe Davis a couple of weeks ago when we talked?
No, we did not actually.
I mean, I know the Giants were talking to him today or yesterday, but why aren't the Jets bringing this guy in?
Yeah, I don't get it. Especially you could use him against Buffalo.
Well, for sure. I mean, I like him. I know he had a down year with Jacksonville last year, but his 4 previous years, he had big years with Buffalo. And to be honest with you, right now, if Gabe Davis signed with the Jets, he's locked in as your number 2 receiver.
He
There's
is.
not even a question.
There's no doubt.
Questions asked.
No doubt. Yeah, this receiver, we talked about it in the last show, is that the receiving room is the biggest atrocity on this team. It's just, Alan Lazard doesn't cut it. Garrett Wilson, I mean, he's your number 1. I'm not the biggest fan of his, and it's just, I really don't like the receiver. I'm not going to hold any weight into the draft picks yet. And then the people that they drafted last year, it's just, with Corey, it's crazy. You don't know what's going to happen with this wide receiver room.
No, you don't, and I include the tight end in the wide receiver room.
That's right.
I like Taylor. I like his potential, but he's still a rookie. Who knows how it's going to play out? But with that said, it's that if Rodgers, you have to figure Rodgers is playing for Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's just going to show up in August. Who knows what he's going to do, right? And so Lazard's gone. You know what's he? I think he's making less than $2 million. He's out of here.
Yeah, he's got to go. So, I was never a fan of that pickup. That was just another Rodgers move to get him here, and he just didn't perform. He was terrible.
Nope, and his numbers weren't bad last year. He had his drops, but we just drafted a receiver with drops. So what are you going to have, Lazard and what's his name? I think it's Smith.
Smith.
You got to have. Yeah, so you have the 2 of them as your wideouts, and we're going to see who drops more passes. I mean, you can't have that. And yet, with that said, if Rodgers signs with Pittsburgh, and if the Jets move Lazard to Pittsburgh, who replaces him?
Yeah, I don't know. And that's why it would make sense for Gabe Davis at this point. It would.
Of course, to me, it's a no-brainer.
And they're not even entertaining it. It's just typical Jets. It really is when you look at it. I want to have a little, I mean, the optimism is always out the door with me with the Jets, especially in recent years, but it's like you want to have a little glimmer of hope that something, especially with Aaron Glenn, because you believe he's going to be the one to lead us back to the promised land. But it's hard to really see when you're not really seeing the conversations and things taking place to get someone like a Gabe Davis in here.
Yeah, and once again, maybe they're talking with them, but they want to run business their way. Maybe it's a good thing the way because the Jets have been run the last 10, 20 years. You don't know anything. I know nothing. Nobody knows anything. That's a good thing.
It is, yeah.
That's a really good thing. And maybe they're having conversations with Gabe Davis. I don't know.
It's possible. Yeah, they keep everything's in house. No more. You don't want to hear any more Woody Johnson's son stories picking everyone based off of Madden and all this. Yeah, no more of those stories need to leak.
Nope. It's funny, and what's funny? I was talking with somebody, just a friend of mine, and he really believes the way they handle the whole Aaron Rodgers dismissal or firing or whatever you want to call it. He really felt that the organization was sticking it to Rodgers to make him fly here because he took shots at the owner and his family and the organization.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. It makes sense now. I didn't even think of that. Yeah. So now that was almost payback for him always taunting Johnson on the McAfee show.
That's what this guy was kind of selling me on, and I was finding it so hard to believe, but I don't think he's that far-fetched.
No, yeah, he was. He was throwing shots at Johnson, so there you go.
It's crazy. It's really crazy. And, once again, the media has been pretty good about it, but, those buyouts that they had, I think that's it. I think the people that put the buyouts, they're gone.
Yeah.
So once again, you have a whole upheaval, whatever departments equipment equipment people, business people, this, that, it's going to be a big upheaval starting tomorrow. And it's, I just hope they have, I think they're going to be fun to watch. And like I said, I can't wait to watch Justin Fields play.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, I really am. And you know what? The worst case scenario, if it don't work out, they'll have a top 5 pick and they'll draft themselves a quarterback.
Exactly. Yeah. See, it works out. It will work out. But maybe, I hope it does. They get the right pick if it were to go that way. But yeah, I think there's going to be some optimism there, at least to enjoy some of these games this year. But I know we're not expecting playoffs at all. I don't know when we could count on that. It would be nice next year would be a playoff year, but you never know.
No, I mean, once again, you never know. I mean, if they could keep me entertained with, hopes of getting into the postseason, if they're still involved in November, I'd be thrilled.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be thrilled. And then the other thing, Pittsburgh opener for week 1 has to be a nightmare for the Jets because half of that stadium is going to be Steeler fans.
Yeah, it's going to be all black and gold jerseys everywhere.
And then a couple of weeks later, then you got half the stadium with Cowboy fans.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So it's listen. It is what it is. You got to play who they tell you to play, and nobody's going to feel sorry for you. And you do what you do. Maybe someday in the near future, maybe other teams will be saying, "Oh man, we have to open against the Jets." That's not a good thing.
I don't know when that's going to be, but it would be nice to have that feeling. I will say this: but looking at the schedule, aren't you tired of facing Denver? Do we play them every year? It's too much with this team.
I think I just heard it's like 5 or 6 years in a row they've played the Broncos.
I'm tired of them.
I really am. I'm glad that game's in. Even though we're losing a home game, I'm glad it's in London. I'm tired of watching the Broncos. It's just I don't want to see that. And it was interesting that they stuck them on a Thursday night in New England in November, mm-hmm. because if both teams get off to a bad start, that game could be basically meaningless. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think you could flex Thursday night games, right? Or did they change that?
I think I don't think so. I don't know. I haven't really heard anything about that, but you never know. I feel as though they change anything that they want now.
Oh yeah, they do it. They do. Well, I was looking at the stations like, Fox got a lot of AFC games, and I just used to put on Channel 2, watch the AFC game, and those days are over, And then the other thing, of course, the Amazon and the Peacock and Prime Video and all this nonsense. It's you're paying for football games to watch on television.
Yeah. It's too much. There's too many different networks that they're on now. Amazon Prime, Peacock. I missed it just when it was on CBS and Fox and Channel 4.
Yep, and it's only going to get worse.
It's
only going to. Well, the good thing is today's the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
So next Tuesday starts their first OTA.
Are you going to be going to the camps?
No, it's closed. Closed for fans, public, friends, family. Just the media has a certain amount of access, and that's it. As a matter of fact,
Glenn may put the barriers up.
To be very honest with you, I really don't know. I'm just speculating. I have a funny feeling there's going to be maybe 4 or 5 open practices this year, and that's going to be it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be I don't think, if he has any at all, well, he's going to have 1 or 2, but I don't see it. I mean, I heard from some of the media people that this past weekend on Friday and Saturday for rookie tryouts, they call it rookie mini camp, but 3/4 of the people on the field probably aren't even in the building anymore.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's just tryouts. And I heard that the media was limited to a very, very few minutes of watching practice, and then they were told, go inside the meeting room and wait to interview the players after practice.
Insane.
And that's rookie tryout.
Yeah, insane. It really is. I don't. It really is unbelievable when you look at it and just how everything ends up being. I don't know. Like I said, I'm hoping for a competitive season, and I don't know if we're going to hear many stories anymore, because I know when we do our shows, we always bring up, oh, what's this story? What's that story? Now you're not going to hear that anymore.
Nope. Now, I'm not on social media. I know your generation, you're into it. Have you noticed since Glenn is taking over, has the Twitter or Xing or whatever they call it, have the Jet players kind of calmed down a little bit?
I've noticed that they have. It's not as bad as it was. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you could bet Glenn, they're grown men. You can't tell them, how to live their lives. But I bet you he told them to kind of cool it with some of that stuff.
Oh, he absolutely. And Salah needed to do that, and all these coaches prior, and they never did. It was the players were always in control. It was always them.
They were always in control. Now, once again, as much as I'd be disappointed if I can't get out to camp much, or don't have access or whatever. As long as they win, who cares? I couldn't care less.
Exactly.
But if they don't win and he's trying to pull this stuff, it's not going to work with the fans. It's just not going to. And the media, you know the way they are, they're not getting anything from the organization, any info, and that's fine. But, they hold a grudge, and if they're not getting what they want, if you don't produce, they're going to be on his case very, very early.
Oh, they will be, and I think he's handled them well so far. You see him in these press conferences; he shuts them down right away.
Yep. But you see, that type of dealing with the media, if you're not winning, there's no credibility then.
Mm-hmm.
You can't act. And once again, and listen, I fully back him.
I do too.
I have respect for him. If that's what he believes in, he's either going to make it that way or he's going to fail that way, and I respect him for that.
Mm-hmm.
But you're walking a very fine line here, because you don't have much wiggle room. You start 0-5, media's going to run you out of town.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. You can't start off that way. You got to have some wins here. You got to.
Well, here, and I heard them on the radio talking a little bit about the Giants schedule. So the first 8 games for Jets and Giants, you might not have a combined 2 teams with 4 total wins.
It's true. Yeah. It's insane.
The Giants schedule is just, it's murderer's row.
It is. Yeah, I was checking that out too. And even with Russell Wilson and Winston and Dart and all these guys, there's no guarantee. And
it's a funny thing? I actually think the Giants might be a little better than the Jets.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think their defense is going to be better than the Jets defense.
I think so. I think they will be. It's unfortunate because, we really don't like the Giants. We're in the same stadium as them. We're always in their shadow, but that's another issue. I would love for them to get their own stadium. I don't ever see that happening, but it's another gripe.
That's not, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not going to happen. But I think this year, 25, this is the year that he has an out in that contract to get out of there. But, we're going to play Randall's Island. I mean, he's not going to do. Are they still called the Oakland Athletics? Aren't they playing like in a minor league stadium?
Yeah, they're playing in a minor league stadium now. Yeah, they're not even playing in their own stadium.
Right. So, I mean, what's Woody going to go play in some 20,000 seat stadium until we build a new stadium? He's not going to do that. So they're not going anywhere.
No, it would be nice.
It's not happening.
No.
But once again, I'll circle back to, what really excites me the most this year is Justin Fields, my quarterback, going forward.
Mm-hmm. And we should have just drafted him to begin with. We should have we should have. He, like, when you look at it, he was definitely more athletic than Zach Wilson. When I really look back on it, we were just impressed by his throwing ability, the way he was able to move out of the pocket, breaking records at BYU. And besides that, he had some flaws, but we bought into it. But realistically, we should have just drafted Fields.
Of course, 100%. And, I was all for Zach Wilson. It's just, I'm not knowledgeable enough to project how he was playing against lesser competition and how he'll do at the next level. I'm not a scout, but Justin Fields was the guy they should have taken. Mm-hmm. But you know what? Maybe it actually was a blessing because the coaches they had probably would have ruined Justin Fields.
Oh, they definitely would have.
So maybe, maybe it's like, maybe it was meant to be and he's coming aboard with a good coaching staff.
Maybe, yeah. I have confidence in Aaron Glenn. I had no confidence in Salah, no confidence in Gaze and all these guys that they had prior. But I mean, Rex Ryan was decent, of course. He 2 championships back-to-back, AFC championships there that they went to. And Bowles I did have faith in, but then it just fell flat after a while.
Yep. I totally agree with you. But, it's funny. I saw they put single game tickets on sale last night to Jets. They never do that when the schedule is released the first night. I tell you, they don't play competitive football. That stadium's going to be empty most of the year.
I could see it happening. Definitely. And that they did that on purpose too, because they know that, because there was a lot of fans on Twitter and X last night talking about, the Jets are going to be fighting for the number 1 pick this year. That's what they were saying.
Well, that was my first initial reaction when I saw the schedule. I was like, text a couple of friends, they were locked to get a top 3 pick. But, after sleeping on it and digesting it this morning, after the bye, if they're still kind of buying into Aaron Glenn, and they're healthy, and they show some type of competitiveness, those last 9 games could be entertaining.
Yeah, no, they could be. They really could. I'm looking forward. To seeing it.
Yeah, because I think the Pittsburgh game is the Pittsburgh game. As crazy as it sounds, that's going to set the tone. Mm-hmm. Because if they don't get that Pittsburgh game, they're going to be 0-4 to start out of the gate.
You could really write that in the books already.
Yep, and 0-4, they're not going to beat the Cowboys. It's 0-5, and then who knows what's going to happen in London.
It could go both ways.
Yeah. So that Pittsburgh game is not that they're going to beat Buffalo or Tampa, but you want to get that first win. You want to get the monkey off your back, and then you have a little wiggle room. Nobody expects too much with some of these other teams. But, I think that Pittsburgh game is a critical game for the Jets.
It is. It's going to really define the season for them.
Yep. And I think it's a critical game for Justin Fields.
It is.
Because, if he comes in and he beats his old team and he has a good game, I think it'll just, his confidence will just climb the charts, and I think he could have himself a very good season.
I agree. I want to see it. I'm rooting for him. I want to see him be the leader of this team. I'm tired of having to talk about, who's the next quarterback, who it is. We've been dealing with this for years now. You can really look at it. We've been dealing with it. I mean, you've been dealing with it since name it. Who's the next quarterback?
It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. And Kenny O'Brien never really got up there.
No, he didn't. He was underrated. He was.
Yep. And Pennington took a lot of crap, and he was also, I think he was a very underrated quarterback for the Jets. Mm-hmm. And the fans, they called him Mulam and all this other stuff. He was one of the better quarterbacks we ever had, really, that we drafted and developed. You know what I mean?
It's true. And we know how we both like Sanchez, and we know what happened there once they once they got Idzik in there, and then they brought in Plaxico Burress, and they're having him chuck it all down the field. Yeah.
that was rough stuff, and we'll see. We'll see. Hey, wouldn't it be funny if they stick it to the Steelers and they wear their black uniforms on opening day?
Oh,
that would be. I would like to see that. I would love to see that.
It would be nice.
Yeah, and make Pittsburgh wear their white jerseys. That would be pretty funny.
It would be.
That would be funny. But yeah, that's it. So we'll see what happens with the OTAs. I don't, unless I talk to a couple of friends and from over there, I don't expect to read anything about it. I certainly don't expect to hear anything about it on the radio. So it's almost like the Jets picked up and moved the franchise.
It seems that way.
It seems like they're playing like in I don't know, Nebraska somewhere or something. Like they don't exist.
Yeah, that's how it seems. You don't hear anything anymore. I like it though because I'm tired. I was tired of being a laughing stock. I'm tired of it being the punchline.
Well, what's funny you say that. I'm rehabbing and God willing, I'm getting back to work on Memorial Day.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, more like a supervisor role, and still, I still got to be careful, but I'm getting stronger and stronger and swimming more and more. But as a matter of fact, today I actually helped somebody at the pool. This guy got dizzy, and I helped him get up and stuff. But I didn't use my left arm, so I was smart about it. Mm-hmm. But what was I reading to? I just lost my train of thought.
Oh, I think it was. Oh man, I forgot what it was. I think it was. Was it the? I forget.
yeah. So we're both getting old, man.
Yeah.
But it just. Yeah, we'll see.
You know what it was? The laughing stock. It was the laughing stock part.
Oh, the laughing stock. Yes. And I'm glad, nobody can laugh until we're old. Oh, right. Mm-hmm. So at the pool, I bumped into this guy who's a member, and he has his son-in-law with him. He introduces me, and I already had gotten out, and I was getting dressed, and I had a Jet T-shirt on, and had my ice pack on my shoulder. And he says, "Aren't you embarrassed to wear that shirt?" So I said, "No." I said, "I've been wearing Jet shirts since they started making them, going back to the 60s. And in those days, I used to have a T-shirt, and I would just write it because you couldn't buy merchandise in those days." And then he says, "Boy, you really took it hard." I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Boy, it hurt you so much, you got to wear an ice pack on your shoulder." So you're talking about being a laughing stock. At least for the first month of the season, you're not going to have to deal with that.
No, thank God for once. Ugh.
A matter of fact, if the Yankees and Mets are both making big time runs, and things are heating up, and most people in New York aren't really focused on the first month of the football season because of the baseball,
mm-hmm.
and so like the Jets, their first 2-3 games. They could possibly fly under the radar. You might even know if they won or lost.
Exactly. Yeah, it's possible, and it looks that way how it's going to be happening in baseball with the Mets and Yankees. So,
I tell you, it's funny. I haven't watched baseball in 25, 30 years, and I pop it on, an inning here, an inning there. I try to time it to get to see the Soto guy get up,
mm-hmm.
and I'm amazed at the juice at the stadium with the fans, with the people. It's actually, you know what? It's actually fun to watch because I'd like to see them win. If they lose, I don't get upset.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of nice to watch a sporting event and not get your stomach in knots because your team's so bad like the Jets have been.
Oh, yeah. And I did say that because now the pressure is on with the Knicks because I haven't seen the Knicks play this well since, I think, 2012 with the one Carmelo Anthony year. But besides that, I haven't seen it. So it's like now, imagine if they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and if they make the finals, my hair is going to be gray,
Oh, yeah. You'll go out of your mind. You'll go out of your mind.
Oh.
But they have to get it tomorrow night. They have to get. Well, what's your take? Do you think they win tomorrow night?
I feel like they do. If they don't, they're not winning the series.
No, There's no way.
No.
There's no shot. And when would the seventh game be, on Sunday?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be on the weekend at that point. Yeah, back in Boston.
There's no way that's happening. No way. I just I'll watch the first half tomorrow night. Hopefully they could put them away in the first half and they look like they're playing well. But who knows? You can't figure these things out. I tell you, I just don't understand. Now, I played college and high school basketball a long time ago, and I just don't understand how these guys play basketball. It doesn't look like basketball to me.
No, it's basically 3-point shooting now. It's not even inside game. It's different. There's no defense anymore.
There's nothing. The other night, some guy on the Celtics, he drove down the middle of the lane for a layup, which he made, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there were 3 or 4 Knicks standing like in the paint, and none of them even touched it. They didn't even put a hand on the guy.
No.
When I played, if you drove down the middle, okay, I used to love to do that because I knew I was getting hit. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I knew I was going to the foul line if I made the shot or not made the shot.
Mm-hmm.
So it was almost like a guaranteed 2 points because you were going to get clobbered going down the middle.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
They don't play that way anymore.
Nope, they don't. It's crazy how basketball has changed, and it's definitely not the Patrick Ewing Knick years either, where it was all tough defense and grind it out till the final quarter.
No, I saw this guy Porzingis. He took like a 45-foot jump shot the other night.
Yeah.
What's this 7-foot guy doing 10 feet behind the 3-point line? What's he doing?
Yeah, that's how it is now. A lot of the big guys are the ones that are shooting too. And he used to be on the Knicks. The Knicks drafted him, and now he's on the Celtics. He already has a ring with the Celtics. It's unbelievable.
So I guess people in your generation or a little older, they don't know any better because this is all they know from basketball. They never saw the way it was, how it was played years ago.
Yeah, it was more. The games were low scoring. It was more low scoring, and there was more of a fight defensively. You had to really grind it out.
Yeah, and there were picks, and there were give and goes, and low posts and high posts, and it was like a different sport. I'm only watching because it's a story, but I have a very difficult time relating to them playing basketball. It just doesn't, it just doesn't register with me.
It's different now. It's way different than it used to be.
It really is. But really also what amazes me is these guys are making 35, 40, let's say 35-foot shots. And it's just a flick of the wrist. Like they're taking 35-foot shots like I used to take foul shots.
Yeah, they're just standing there and just throwing it up and it goes in. It's wild.
It's really, and the fans love it. And you see it, the people go crazy for it.
They do, yeah.
And now the other thing is, I don't see, because they don't really drive to the basket. The dunking is not a big deal anymore. It's like the 3-point shot took away from the dunking too.
That's true. Yeah, it is. It'll go viral for like a second, but yeah, the 3 points have completely taken over the NBA. It's even kind of, and when you think about it, the dunk contest isn't even exciting anymore because we've basically seen it all, but there's no great dunkers in the league like there used to be.
Do you think there's any point in the next couple of years where they move the 3-point line back another 3, 4, 5 feet?
You never know. It's possible. I think I have heard that before, that someone has brought that up.
Oh,
I wouldn't
really?
be surprised.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think it would happen, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Because it looks like they're taking shots from 5, 10 feet behind the line anyway.
Yeah, it's wild. It's especially if you're a big man. That's what's crazy. Like you said, these 7-foot guys just taking these 3 points. They're 3-point. They're playing like guards. These centers.
Yes. Oh, talk about that. Another thing, I know Justin Fields was spotted, I think, in one of the Knicks games.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when the Islanders were in the playoffs and like every playoff game, like 20 Jets were going and they were taking pictures?
Oh, yeah, and they were chugging beer.
They were chugging beer. You don't see you don't see Garrett Wills, you don't see any of these guys on Celebrity Row at these nicknames.
No, Justin Fields was there a couple weeks ago. I think he signed a ball and just threw it in the stands, and that was it. He was there. I saw
but that's it. But you don't see like an abundance of players.
No, you don't.
You wonder if Glenn is saying, "Listen, stay out of the spotlight."
Yeah, it's possible, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Yeah, no. I remember the Islanders. That was ridiculous. It was.
Didn't one of the offensive linemen crush a beer can on his head?
Yeah,
he choked out a beer.
Yeah. Oh God, I forget what his name.
Was it Greg Van Roten? Was it him?
Oh no! I don't know who it was. He had a mustache. I know that. I'm in a long mullet.
Oh yes. I tell you, I've believe me, in my younger days, I've not beer cans, but I've crushed a lot of cans. Watching the Jets play, I can tell you that. Not the Islanders, but the Jets.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. The Jets, they've caused so much pain, too much suffering.
Too much. It's just beyond. It's like they've basically numb. I like the last couple of years. I wouldn't even I don't get upset. It's kind of what I expect.
Yeah, it's wild. It's just now I expect to lose. I don't like doing it, just having an expectation, but that's just how I feel now with this team because it's been so long. I was in 5th grade the last time that they were in the playoffs. I'm 25 now. It's crazy. Let's go.
Well, let's hopefully in the next year or two, we'll be talking about a January playoff game. That would be nice. And Fields is a quarterback and Glenn's a coach, and that would be a nice thing.
It would be. I want to see it, and let's hope that we see it. And yeah, and always go Jets.
Yep, go Jets. And I guess I'd love to talk to you about minicamp, but I don't know. I probably could give you more info about what's going on with the country than with the Jets.
Yeah, or the Knicks.
or the Knicks. Well, maybe. Will the Knicks, if they make it to the finals, will they be playing during minicamp in the middle of June?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, forget it. You're not going to hear anything about the Jets unless somebody gets hurt. Yeah. You're not going to hear anything about the Jets until August. No.
And even then, who knows? You may not even find out anything over the summer.
Yeah, you might not. It's just how this team is now. It's unbelievable.
It really is. I've never, all the years of following this, I know we're running short here, but with all the years of following this team, I've never gone through a stretch since they hired Glenn where there's like, you don't know they exist.
Yeah. They're non-existent.
If we didn't have the NFL draft and the schedule release, you could make an argument is that the Jets aren't in New York anymore.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yeah, you wouldn't hear anything if it wasn't for those two events.
And I never thought that would be. I really never thought that would be possible with the type of media we have in New York. Mm-hmm. Nothing against them, except they have a leg up on everybody else in the country. And with all the ins and connections and all this stuff, I'm just amazed that it's like, you remember the movie Independence Day, and they couldn't crack the barrier around that thing that was floating, and then they finally figured it out.
Oh yeah, well, Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith, yeah.
And they finally they had to go inside and set a virus so they could break that thing open. Mm-hmm. It's like, I think that's the only way you're going to get something out of the Jets. Somebody's going to have to plant the virus in Florham Park to get that shield down.
Yeah, it's possible.
But hey, listen, once again, if they win, who cares?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. As long as they win, I'm completely fine with it.
Yep. Well, listen, good luck tomorrow night with the Knicks.
Yeah.
And, hopefully they move. Who do they play? The Pacers if they win?
Yeah, they play the Pacers.
All right. Well, hopefully that, and hopefully the Mets could beat the Yankees, and hopefully the Jets can stay healthy, and that'll be a good spring.
Yeah, I'm hoping, and I'm sure there will be good things to take away from from the sports coming up. Yeah,
I hope so. Well, good talking with you.
Good talking, Ira.
I guess we'll talk when training camp comes up.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds good. Have a good day.
You too, Ira. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.